How dare he do this to me? Does he not know who I am? I'm a witch. Or maybe this quote hits closer. I was happier when I had no money and no car, and I was struggling at uni. Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're not just telling a story. We're really unpacking the layers of a truly extraordinary, and I mean extraordinary, personal journey. Our mission really is to explore the incredible, deeply personal, and frankly, highly unusual spiritual path of Laura Anel. This is someone who went from being a popular YouTube tarot reader to practicing dark witchcraft, experiencing these incredibly intense, sometimes terrifying encounters with Baphomet, and then ultimately with Jesus Christ. Our source for this is a really in-depth interview transcript. It's from the YouTube channel Almost False, and it gives Laura's own raw, first-hand account. So this isn't just a recap, it's an exploration of identity, that relentless search for purpose we all kind of feel, and navigating spiritual encounters so intense they literally, well, reshape a life.
And what really makes Laura's story so compelling for a deep dive, I think, is that unique mix. You've got this intensely personal quest bumping right up against these genuinely extraordinary, you could even say supernatural events. It gives us this rare, unfiltered window into a very specific and deeply transformative spiritual experience.
Yeah.
It really challenges our usual understanding, you know?
Absolutely. So, okay, let's unpack this journey. How did Laura's initial steps into the occult even begin? It wasn't entirely new territory for her. Her mother did tarot reading, so it wasn't completely alien. But the real catalyst, it seems, was this prolonged situationship. 4 years of torment, she called it, with a man in New York. And instead of finding a way out, she ended up obsessively searching online. Not typing in tarot readers or anything, but asking questions like, why is this man doing this to me? You know, seeking answers.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? How often people, when they're facing deep emotional turmoil, that need for control or just understanding, they instinctively turn outward. The internet just amplifies that search massively. It offers endless paths. And it seems Laura, well, stumbled onto one.
Stumbled is right, almost accidentally becoming a tarot reader herself. She got impatient waiting for readings from others, so she just bought her own cards, sits down at her kitchen table, does a reading for her mother, and it's shockingly accurate. Then for others, word gets around. People start showing up at her door. She realizes, okay, maybe I have a gift here. Starts a YouTube channel, posts regularly, and the success was, well, almost instant, like 20,000 followers in the first 3 months. Booked solid, 5 readings a day, 5 days a week. She had an 8-month waiting list. People were booking packages, 10 sessions at a time, just to get in monthly.
Wow. That kind of rapid rise, especially in a field where people are looking for deep answers, it often puts the practitioner in this position of perceived authority, almost like playing God, as some might say.
Yeah.
And that experience, as Laura describes it, all comes with this hidden cost, right? An emotional, spiritual toll that nobody really talks about.
Exactly. Because despite all that outward success, the apartment, the car, the money, she described herself as feeling emptier and emptier, just completely isolated and lonely. And that quote really hits home, doesn't it? I was happier when I had no money and no car, and I was struggling at uni. It wasn't just burnout. It was this profound internal emptiness.
Yeah, it's such a critical psychological point that real fulfillment, it isn't just about collecting those external badges of success or influence. Actually, if they come without genuine connection or purpose or a solid sense of who you are,
Yeah.
they can paradoxically just make that internal void feel even deeper.
And that deep emptiness, that gnawing loneliness, it really set the stage for her journey to take a much darker, more intense turn. She talked about this internal voice, like a constant whisper getting louder and louder. No one likes you. You're not lovable. Just relentless. Her father, maybe sensing something wasn't right, suggested she move to Australia. Fresh start, bit of sunshine. But as she tells it, this move just immersed her deeper into what she called the occult, but with a sparkly face. Now, what she meant by that, for anyone listening, was this kind of deceptive mix of what looked like harmless New Age practices, breath work, women's circles, womb work, all dressed up as wellness. But for her, they became increasingly tangled up with these deeper, often unacknowledged occult ideas. It actually deepened her connection to, well, darker things.
That's a really crucial distinction. What looks like self-care on the surface, for some people, it can become a doorway to deeper spiritual exploration, maybe even manipulation. Laura's experience really shows how these practices can subtly shift your whole spiritual framework, especially when you're searching for answers to really deep personal pain.
And that pain just got worse. She got into a second really difficult relationship, even got married in Australia. But she still felt totally unloved, always trying to earn affection from her husband, supporting him financially, but always feeling like she just wasn't good enough. And this led to a truly devastating pregnancy. Her husband was strongly against it, asking her, "Are you going to keep it?" She was completely isolated. He wouldn't let her tell her family. And then eventually he just abandoned her, telling her, "You need to leave." This led her to make the incredibly painful decision to terminate the pregnancy. She described it as going full on into labor, experiencing the worst physical pain she'd ever known, and she was completely alone through it all.
The isolation, the physical trauma, it sounds just unbearable. It's hard to even imagine the depth of despair she must have felt then. And for Laura, in that moment, she made this really shocking statement that terminations are sacrifices, blood sacrifices. Now, that's not just a passing thought. That's a really powerful, disturbing insight into her emotional and spiritual state right then. It created this new, terrifying way of understanding what happened. It really set the stage for a huge shift in how she saw everything.
And that very night, she said something inside her just switched. She felt this powerful presence, heard a voice declaring, "How dare he do this to me? I'm a witch." She described it feeling like a possession, but also incredibly powerful, like she was finally done being walked all over. This just propelled her into embracing darker witchcraft. Her focus shifted. Deities like Hades, Persephone, Lucifer, her whole aesthetic changed dramatically. Went from, pink sparkly tarot cards with butterflies to black tarot cards with skulls. She started using cauldrons, doing spells, making potions, even painting these black pagan symbols on her face for her videos. But embracing this dark power, it came with terrifying physical side effects. Paranormal stuff started escalating in her home, lights, the TV, fire alarms going off for no reason, sometimes even during tarot readings. Coming home to find the gas had been left out, but then it got much, much worse. She talked about being woken up one night by something physically pulling at her feet, and then a few nights later, waking up to this putrid, rotten, fiery smell in her room. She thought, it was hell in my room. And maybe the most terrifying thing she described, feeling a spirit trying to actually get into her body while she was trying to nap, feeling it struggling to take over.
And that's where it gets really difficult, doesn't it? From the outside, how do you tell the difference between intense psychological distress, maybe fueled by all that trauma, and what Laura was absolutely convinced was genuine spiritual warfare? I mean, her own friend, who was also a witch, confirmed how serious it was, told her straight up the spirit was in you, not just hanging around the house. That kind of validation from someone inside her own world, it really points to her belief in a tangible, malevolent presence.
Right. So she's feeling possessed. She's deep into studying hell and purgatory, finding it fascinating now. And this leads us to a truly singular event, a direct physical encounter with Baphomet. After her friend did the spirit removal, Laura switched bedrooms, but she wakes up around 2 or 3 a.m. feeling this complete emptiness, a void she later understood as like the absence of God. And then, really creepily, she hears sheep bleating like something straight out of a horror movie. Then Baphomet appeared. She described it as huge, nearly touched the ceiling, with horns, a goat's head, and a body that was half male, half female. And what happened next was this chilling physical interaction. Baphomet walks closer, puts its hands on her knees, and tried to pull my legs apart. She said she felt its physical presence. Now, for listeners maybe less familiar, Baphomet in occult circles is often this complex symbol. Duality, balance of opposites, sometimes a path to hidden knowledge. But this specific action Laura describes, trying to pull her legs apart, that's a pretty unmistakable attempt at a kind of sexual initiation. A direct challenge within that dark spiritual world she was in. She recoiled, terrified, recognized it as exactly what witches were historically accused of sleeping with the devil.
But what's truly fascinating, psychologically, is her reaction right then. Instead of just pure terror, she describes something almost like Stockholm Syndrome. She actually tried to befriend it, thinking maybe he's the good one and maybe he's misunderstood like me. It just highlights this incredibly deep human need for connection, doesn't it? To rationalize, to find belonging, even when faced with something she perceived as utterly terrifying. It speaks to profound vulnerability there.
That's a really powerful point. And she believes that softening, that moment of opening up to it, actually led to Baphomet disappearing, because she'd sort of opened the door. And after that, she leaned into it, researched Baphomet, bought a big statue for her videos, started regularly offering it raw organic steak on fine china because she'd heard it wanted more meat. She'd sit there, talk to it, feel the presence of these beings around her. But, despite trying to control or even befriend these forces, Laura said evil things kept happening to her. She started dating violent men, faced physical abuse. She heard that same horrible voice telling her she was worthless and unlovable, but now it was a physical experience, someone literally screaming it in her face. Her goal then was power, to be seen, to have success, the Bali retreat, the big following. But the witchcraft she found just made everything worse. And the irony, her audience started tuning out. They felt she'd gone dark. She was losing the very visibility she craved. So after hitting what really sounds like rock bottom, how did her life take another, even more dramatic and ultimately, transformative turn? She decided to go back to Australia. She felt this pull towards something more, a calling she said she'd felt her whole life, thinking she was close to finding it. And there, on a beach, she has her first encounter. She felt this wave of love wash over her, something completely unrecognizable. And she saw Jesus sitting there smiling in a glowing white robe. Initially, though, with her New Age brain, as she put it, she just categorized him as a new spirit guide.
Right. And in the categorization, Jesus is just another spirit guide. It's such a classic example of how that New Age brain works. And it's often about mixing traditions, personal truth, rejecting dogma. So it tries to fit new experiences into that existing box. But what's really incredible here is how immediately that encounter started to just dismantle that whole framework for her. She describes suddenly being unable to even comprehend her old practices, yoga, breathwork, inner child stuff. Now she saw them as demonic. It was a complete foundational shift in how she understood spiritual truth.
And that shift was fast and total. She immediately broke from the occult, stopped yoga, stopped seeing old friends, bought a cross necklace. Her whole moral compass just flipped. She found old conversations she used to have disgusting, and this led to this huge act of surrender. She canceled all her clients, threw away all her tarot cards, crystals, New Age books, statues, literally just chucked them in the bin. And here's where it becomes this incredible test of transformation, really. Right after she lets go of everything she'd built, she gets offered her dream Bali retreat. She goes viral on Instagram and TikTok, basically achieved all the external success she used to desperately crave, and yet she felt nothing. She called the money blood money, and she refunded $30,000 to clients because she just didn't want it anymore.
Wow. That moment, rejecting $30,000, rejecting those dream opportunities, it profoundly shows this critical insight psychologically and spiritually. True transformation isn't just changing what you do. It's fundamentally changing what you want. When your internal sense of value and purpose shifts that dramatically, well, those external markers of success just become meaningless. It's like an internal revolution.
Absolutely. So with this huge internal change, she goes back to England, and she's specifically looking for a traditional church now. And it felt almost providential, a Bible that a vicar she'd randomly met before she even left for Australia had given her was waiting at home. She found it and started reading it. She described this really powerful, emotional experience taking Holy Communion for the first time, felt completely unworthy, but then felt this profound softening of my heart and just fell in love with Jesus. Cried the whole way home, described it as painful but glorious. And this sort of set the stage for the second, even more intense encounter with Jesus. This was in her bedroom about 7 months after the first one on the beach. He appeared, but not like the New Age Jesus from the beach. This was, as she put it, the man I've been reading about. Thorns, blood, ripped robes. She described these deeply symbolic things happening. Jesus washing her feet, a detail she only later realized was right there in the Gospels. He placed his hands on hers. She saw his blood flow onto her hands, up her arms, onto her face, and finally onto her room. And she felt profoundly forgiven. Then this huge, massive, metallic 3D golden book appeared, and her name, Laura Anel, was in it. After a lifetime of feeling invisible, she finally felt chosen. She realized Jesus does see me, didn't care if anyone else did. And then she noticed her hands felt like lead, heavy. She asked why, and Jesus told her that is the burden of the cross, which she said was completely mind-blowing. The encounter ended with this dramatic transformation. Jesus changed from crucified to resurrected, glowing with golden light. He then anointed her with gold oil on her hands, arms, heart, face, womb, feet, and finally drew a gold cross on her forehead, marking her, sealing her, personally baptizing her, she felt.
And that sequence you just described, it's so key to her testimony. These profound physical encounters with Jesus happened before she really dove deep into reading the Gospels. Her faith didn't start with doctrine, or some pre-existing theological framework. It started with these direct, visceral experiences that she later found affirmed and explained in Scripture. It's a really powerful reversal of how many people come to faith, isn't it? Where the experience validates the doctrine, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did all this mean for her life moving forward? Laura gave up everything, deleted her social media, 500,000 followers, gone. Shut down her website, lost her house, her money, her job. She was literally homeless, penniless, no prospects. But she said she wasn't afraid to start from scratch for him, just trusted he would restore things his way. After about a year of rest, she felt Jesus told her to go back to the places you were and bring my children home. And Laura now dedicates her life to that mission, reaching out to people who feel lonely, lost, empty, trying to bring them to Jesus, or at least as she put it, give them a feeling of him. What an absolutely extraordinary deep dive. A life just dramatically reshaped by these intense physical, spiritual encounters. Laura's story really challenges us, I think, to consider the powerful forces at play when we search for identity and meaning and what it truly means to be seen.
Definitely. This whole narrative just underscores this crucial point, that profound human need to feel seen, to feel loved, and to find our true identity. And as Laura articulated, maybe that identity isn't found in jobs or relationships or even our past, but in something much deeper, more enduring. It's often a journey, isn't it, that requires that radical act of letting go of everything we thought we wanted, everything we built, to truly find ourselves.
And your journey, listener, maybe it doesn't involve encounters with Baphomet or the resurrected Christ, but perhaps you felt that same loneliness, that sense of a calling, that quiet feeling that there's something more you're meant to do. So what does all this mean for you? Here's a thought to maybe carry with you. What does it truly mean to find your identity and your purpose? And maybe more importantly, what are you willing to let go of to truly be seen? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration has given you plenty to think about. We'll catch you next time.